Watch this. No way!
Just do 35,000 steps a day instead. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Clicker Jar Golf Podcast, brought to you in partnership with FootJoy. I am Tom Mills, and today I'm joined by my esteemed colleagues, plural, Bruce Fitzpatrick.
Good afternoon.
And Sam Williams.
Gentlemen, isn't it nice to be together?
Absolutely.
Always nice to be in each other's presence.
Currently
Bruce is
lying on grass like teenagers next to the practice range.
Do teenagers lie on grass?
Shade. It's so hot.
So. I mean, it's boiling. It's nice. I know what you're saying there, Sammy. I think it's nice to recapture a bit of youth and just lounging around on the grass. It's not really socially acceptable, is it, at a golf club as an adult? But
I don't think you can just lie around at Sunningdale on the floor with microphones at any other time other than Curtis Cup.
Yeah, and we can't bracket all teenagers together because there's some teenagers that have done some magnificent things on this weekend.
Yeah.
So let's not tarnish the name of the teenager just yet.
No, true. They were the stars of the show.
So why are we here, Bruce?
Well, what great few days, boys. Curtis Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we always knew this was going to be like a something we were going to look forward to.
Flagship event for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and seemingly loads of other people, because I was quite surprised at just how many people were here. We're going to go into it. We'll talk about the venue, obviously, the players, what's gone on. We've got quite an exciting segment, which I'm really looking forward to doing, but we can't lead with that, which is obviously Overheard at the Curtis Cup, because there's some great sound bites I've picked up out there. Yeah, looking forward to getting into it.
There were some good things Overheard at the Curtis Cup this year, but we'll save that for the end.
I mean, Bruce, you've been on the road following the women's game now for the extent of 2 weeks, basically.
Yeah, I know. I do feel very fortunate that it's fallen the way it has, and to see the Women's Open at the home of golf, and then to come and watch the Curtis Cup here played at Sunningdale. It's been brilliant, actually. And as you mentioned there, Sammy, this has been on our radar since the very start of the year. Obviously, I think goes without saying we had a brilliant time at the Walker Cup at St Andrews last year, and that really, I mean, for me at least, it was eye-opening just how good that event is to watch as a spectator and follow it around, and just the general vibes there. But even having said that, I didn't really know what to expect coming to the Curtis Cup, and whether it would be similarly received. And actually, it's exceeded expectations in every way. It's been brilliant. It's just another testament to match play golf, team golf, the top level of the amateur game, and playing at a historic course like this. It's wonderful.
It's a pretty potent cocktail, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's something about watching match play, though, isn't there? Because every shot you watch has some consequence. Whereas you go and watch stroke play golf, and 99.9% of the shots hit have absolutely no bearing on the outcome of what's happening.
But it's also like shots that are... It's shots and emotions of people that are not involved with a shot. So it sounds a bit weird, but, put an example, like the 17th today. So I don't want to skip all the way to the end, but 17th today, where Mimi Rhodes puts in the trees on the left, chops out, great approach shot from like 120 odd yards roughly, and then whacks it in for par. Now, ordinarily, you watch a stroke play thing and you're like, what a par that is.
Yeah, good save.
But you're not.
On to the next.
What it's not in a stroke play event is absolute heartbreak for the person who's at the other end of it. It's
Turned out that was the winning putt as well.
Yeah.
And that whole game, that whole match, Mimi Rhodes match, was absolutely amazing. And it's funny how you come to these events, let's be honest, not knowing a huge amount about the players, because we don't get a tremendous amount of exposure to college golf. A majority of the people that were playing in this college golfers, and a few of them, Anna Davis.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's a couple of years. It's been ADV all week. So obviously Anna Davis bucket hat was the, really the strap line coming out of the ANWA a couple of years ago. But now she seems to be wearing visors.
Yeah,
so it's Anna Davis visor. She's always been known as...
she was always Anna Davis bucket hat.
On the basis of what headwear she's wearing, so just shortened to ADV.
ADV is what she is now. And ADV had a quality, few days. So, you knew about Anna before she came in. You know about Lottie, obviously coming top 10 in the women's Open last week, and then
asterisk tally. I feel like she definitely need to mention.
So the amazing thing is, like, you sort of say it out loud, you say it quickly, and you go, "She's 15," and you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah."
Asterix Tally is an absolute hero.
And then we were like, oh no, hang on, she was born in 2009. Like, she hasn't lived through a recession, like a global recession. That's how young she is. You were like, my nephew's 11. Like, he's not playing Walker Cup in 4 years' time.
Yeah, I mean, Asterix Tally for me. I mean, there are some absolute heroines that have come out of this week for me. Some like they all tend to be Americans. They just, I mean, Asterix Tally is this. She is like Captain Jack Sparrow of amateur golf. It was all kind of just, she stands up, no glove. She's hitting the ball before anyone's even looking at her.
100 yards ahead up the fairway. Yeah. Steams ahead.
We were
consuming sausages as well at an extraordinary rate. I mean, they were bussing out
sausage rolls
from halfway.
Every time she took one down. Every time.
Like the speed and the sort of swashbuckling nature that she played with. I mean, she is going to be 15 years old, and she took down Lottie Wood, the world amateur #1 in the final day of the singles, 3-2. I mean, I know, like you get the sort of the ignorance of youth where you don't even know how to be scared or whatever. She just stands up, plays golf, and it's like when Zayn was on the pod. Do you remember when he was in the Open and he was like, I don't know why everyone's like making a big deal. I'm supposed to make birdies, aren't I? Yeah, it's like, it's a big deal.
Yeah, well, that's how she started. I mean, she came out the gates hot, 3 birdies in the first 3 holes, and off to a flyer
today. Yeah, I mean, we should probably talk about the days.
Yeah, so let's just put a bit of structure around it. Obviously, in the last hour and a half or so, we've just watched the GB&I side win by the finest of margins, 10.5, 9.5. There's some great singles matches that I think we can recap in due course. But you take us back to the start of it. You were here on Friday. Sadly, I was slaving away in the office, not able to get out and follow much.
Well, I think that was the going in. Yeah, so like the first observation. We're going to come to the venue in Sunningdale and all that great stuff in a bit. But the Walker Cup did feel like bloody hell, it's like a who's who. Like if a bomb went off in St Andrews last year at the Walker Cup, like the game would be set back, generations. Like, I mean, all the administrators today. It's obviously like important people, and the Curtis Cup was absolutely identical, and it basically feels like a really high quality match play event, obviously very storied, lots of history, but the other side of it is it feels like some sort of like golfing regatta. It's like a thing to be sort of seen at,
and that's what hit you in the face first thing Friday morning when you turned up.
Just a lot. You're looking around, there's a lot of USGA boards, a lot of RNA boards, lots of like, really senior people in the game of golf, and you're like, wow, there's a lot of,
as always with these things,
down the fairways.
A lot of Irish. As always with the amateur game, a lot of Irish.
The Irish amateur game, yeah.
The Irish love their amateur sport in general, but they do love their amateur golf, and there was a lot of Irish, a lot of American over, and they're just, I mean, it's just so cliched to say it, but it's just such a knowledgeable crowd. They just know their golf. It's not like, you're not hearing many mashed potatoes off the tee. No, weirdly.
Not huge numbers.
No, I didn't recall any.
The best one was like saw Philip Truitt in the morning in the foursomes. I wouldn't miss this for the world because I'm a really big fan of the foursomes. I'm going to come and do both the foursomes game. I'm not so interested in watching 4-ball golf, but I'll stay and watch the foursomes. It's a real pure crowd of people who are enjoying it. People like Jill Thornhill, who's obviously a very successful Curtis Cup player in her career. I think Friday and Saturday, 2 loops of 36, not a problem. Didn't miss an inch of the action. Like, it's a seriously dedicated.
For those people who just don't know about Jill Thornhill, just a moment for Jill Thornhill. She's won about 1,000 club champs at Walton Heath.
In so many decades as well, over an extensive period.
She's a serious Curtis Cupper.
She's accomplished a huge amount in the amateur game.
And still playing a little bit of golf up until very, very recently. But she's a little bit older. But to see her walk around 36 holes, I mean, I was like, oh, my legs are hurting, my back's hurting. And Jill's just marching out there, just following the Curtis Cup. And there was apparently 50 past Curtis Cuppers here.
And that's something that I think the RNA, I mean, at the moment for the RNA, they do an unbelievable job with events like this, I think, of just really giving back to the game in a way that is lovely to see. Because, it's fair to say we've probably talked about how the Open, for as exciting as it can be to watch on TV, maybe isn't the best viewing spectacle, and it's become quite a big commercial machine. But goodness me, the RNA just reinvest it in absolute spades into events like this, and they're such
It's
a
not-
pleasure to come and
Not even
watch.
just this, because you were at the Vagliano last week.
Yeah.
Just give us a
Yeah.
tiny bit about what that is.
So the junior Vagliano is the girls under 16s GB&I team against the girls under 16 European team, and the Jacques L'Église is the boys 18 under GB&I against the European under 18 GB&I men's team or boys team. And you go there, and it feels like a little mini Walker Cup. You've got hydration stations, you've got, all the snacks out on the tee, you've got the Rolex banners, it's got all the stuff that makes it feel like a really well put together RNA event. And you're right, you're like, yeah, they're doing a great job with it. You think, well, God, you're making so much money on the Open. They kind of should be. But it's
do a
not a
great
certainty.
job.
They
Yeah.
do a brilliant job.
And just to
the
come back,
details out there, it's
it's
mental
immaculate.
what they've done with the Curtis Cup.
and just tie a couple of points together there, on your point about Jill Thornhill, what's amazing is, we've got beautifully put together programs here with every single Curtis Cup player and the year they played, the cups they played, their record in the program, and they've got absolute, A1 viewing position for that first tee shot. So Jill and her other, fellow Curtis Cup players from
right behind the
bygone
tee.
days, just right behind the tee, looked after.
And you had,
As they should be, because, they're part of the fabric of this event.
you had people like Dottie Pepper here, but, former Curtis Cupper, Charlie Hull. Up until this week was the fourth youngest Curtis Cupper of all time. Now she's the fifth, thanks to Asterisk Tally.
Yeah.
But it was really well supported, and it was just a banging event, really. And I think, just piggybacking on your point, Sam, like the RNA events are just, it doesn't need to be this big. Like the infrastructure they've put in place. There's loads of food trucks out on the course, and there's just it feels like a little mini Open, doesn't it? It's not as big, but
it just
There's no grandstands.
The amount
There's
of-
one little
there's
stand.
one
back to
grandstand.
13.
but the
like
crowds
all
were
the-
big.
yeah.
Because I suppose the thing is you've got 3 matches out. So the teams of 8. You've got foursomes in the morning, 4-ball in the afternoon on the Friday and Saturday, and today's 18 holes of singles. Slightly bigger crowd probably for the singles, but it didn't feel as big because there was 8 matches out rather than 3. It's just the perfect. It was busy. Like if you got on to a big match at the right time, you really had to hustle a little bit to see the shots. That shows you how much interest there was.
I thought the volunteers felt really well trained.
Yeah.
Like there was no messing around. They wasn't like they were looking at each other going like, "What do we do now?" It was like they marshalled the sort of people who were the rope guys. Because these events, for those who don't know all that much about it, these events are still, walking the fairways. You can kind of get really close to the action. You're not behind ropes all the time.
Never
And,
feels chaotic, does it? It's never
no.
like, guys, get out the fairway. You've got to.
Well, you say that.
You're gonna
It
die.
did. So there was a great. So by and large, look, some few friends of the pod, people like Michael Chung and Daniel Hannafin out, kind of, getting involved. People who've given 3 or 4 days to just volunteer and help the event, which fair play. But anyway, me and Tom were walking up the 10th on the Friday afternoon. Tom,
I think it was the first day, wasn't it?
yeah. And we are, the last fairway bunker before the green on 10. This is the old for anyone that, plays back up to the halfway hut. And we're about probably about 60 yards off the green. The hole is probably what's it playing off from the back, Bruce? You'll know, about 450 or so.
Yeah.
That's
So
One of the
about
volunteers is
390 yards
going,
off the tee.
excuse me, they're about to drive. I was like, okay, they're not going to get it here, though, are they? Anyway, I turned over my shoulder. Martin Slumbers is in the bucky about 100 yards back, but I seem to be
Slap bang
getting
in
a
the middle of
telling
the
off.
fairway.
No, it's quality. So in terms of how did it unfold? So we had because we should say going into this, GB and I are kind of the underdogs,
pretty
right?
heavy underdogs. Other than Lottie Woad, who's obviously won the Anwar earlier this year, Smith Salver last week at St Andrews in the Women's Open, and is the world number 1 ranked amateur.
What else have the Romans done for us?
But it was kind of there was a gulf in the rankings once you got past Lottie, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of them are all college bar one, but there's obviously a huge difference in the level of collegiate players. Big news, obviously, for GB and I having Catriona Matthews as captain. That's is that worth something? But they're going into this thinking they're kind of the underdogs.
And it
And
all
the only
kicked
time
off.
they were down was the Friday morning.
Yeah, so it all kicked off Friday morning with the foursomes. And it wasn't looking rosy. They put the Rhodes sisters out, and there needs to be a huge mention for Patience Rhodes, because they put the Rhodes sisters out together, Mimi and Patience, in the foursomes day one, and they got absolutely dusted, like 6 and 5. And then Patience was dropped, and then she was brought back in the next day for one of the sessions, and she lost that as well. And it's not looking good. And then she went out today in the singles and absolutely crunched it. I think she might have won 6 and 5. I don't know.
Yeah, she did. So, yeah, you had Patience and then a sister Mimi out. So,
so Mimi then came in.
Two sisters from Burnham and Barrow.
Yeah, and Patience to have a tough couple of days, really. Not playing many sessions, and the ones you do, you're not winning. To come out, and I think every GB&I player secured at least a point. So
that's right, they did indeed.
So that was
So we're going into it was 2-1 at lunch on Friday, and that was the only time they were down because they clawed it back to 3 apiece. It felt like throughout the Friday and the Saturday, the back nine was kind of like the key stretch where they almost always pulled it back slightly.
Yeah.
They didn't really take on any water on the back nine. They only went forward. I mean, we should talk a bit about the course now because I think that sort of segues into it. But my take on the old, certainly as a match play course, and what you boys think is that run of really feels like, I suppose, 8 to 14. You can make birdies and bogeys at any opportunity with those. Like they're high variance sort of match play holes, right?
Yeah, there's a really good spread there because, I mean, 8's a pretty stiff par 3. 9 yielded a lot of birdies, but again, you can kind of slip up there. 10 plays as a par 5 this week. We saw a couple of eagles,
which is ridiculous, by the way, because it's match play.
It is actually stupid. Yeah,
they've changed pars around. Like this week, we're playing as a par 5. It's like it's match play.
It's irrelevant. You can make it a par 10.
Could be par 1,000. No one cares.
Yeah. Well, but I think to Sam's point there, you make it a par 5. All of a sudden, it's like, it's a really good birdie chance rather than.
Yeah, but if they put it as par 6, like I would have bird. If they put it as par 7s, I could birdie.
It's par 6.
Yeah, but I could birdie some holes then. I'd have birdies all over the card.
I think the women's card here has 2 and 10 as a 5, but they're playing them much longer this week because they were playing pretty much from the back throughout, weren't they?
Most of the way back.
But you're right, 10's like a 4.5. 9's like a 3.5. No, I know it's tried and cliche.
Half par, it is,
but
definitely.
they are definitely
11
birdie
we saw a fair few
opportunity.
birdies, but
Loads.
quite a key moment I think in Lottie's match earlier against Astrid. She'd sort of driven it up quite close to pin high, got a slightly dodgy lie in the rough, and then chipped it in the bunker and made bogey when she didn't get up and down.
12 playing tough. 13's playing tougher than the stock 3, I'd say.
But we saw a few birdies there as well. Really close
and then
shots.
14's a par 5. So there's a whole stretch there where if you just find it at the right time, you should show someone the heels, like because you're not just going to go through swathes of stock par 4 holes making ton and ton of birdies, but they're just like. It's a good match play to the sequence of holes, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
I think we pulled it back in the 4 balls in the afternoon, 3-all, 4-all after the foursomes day 2, 4.5 each. Sorry, after the foursomes day 2, and we kind of showed him a bit of blue on the board, and it looked like we were going to whitewash the 4-ball session yesterday afternoon. Only to be pulled back on the 18th in the final match. That was a really good session. I really enjoyed
that was very
watching yesterday's
Saturday afternoon was probably the best session.
Yeah.
What was your take on the Saturday afternoon session, Bruce?
High drama, I would say.
What did you think around sort of the turn? What was going on around the turn?
Because there was a few key moments in the afternoon session, weren't there, Bruce?
Yeah, there were a few.
Give us a bit of a summary of them, really.
Yeah. Well, I think obviously the key moment was the putt that went the USA's way on 17.
You wouldn't think the key moment
Sarah Byrne and Lottie Woad.
You don't think the key moment was when the last group went through one and you were like, right, that's enough for me now. I'm going to go play the Berkshire. You don't think that was the key moment?
Look, I think we're all partial to just getting out and just stretching the legs and hitting the ball ourselves when we get a moment. I mean, there's a lot of golf to be watched here, guys.
You don't want to burn out too soon, do you?
No,
you can't watch too much golf.
There's only so much golf you can watch before you just have to go and show your own inadequacy and have a hit at the golf ball yourself. Really,
because I listened to the AIG.
This is fresh off the heels of having to follow Lydia Coe's warm-up routine at the Fairmont.
Yeah, that was only 20 minutes at the range.
You said half an hour at the time, and I think, judging by Grace's reaction, it sounded like it was a heck of a lot longer than 30 minutes of range time.
And the other James Byrne, who you were with, has also confirmed it was
Guilty as charged.
He
No,
said it was actually an excessive range session, didn't
yeah.
he?
However, let's talk
he
about
was on keeping us there, but let's not get sidetracked.
let's talk about pace of play for a moment.
Yeah.
Because you did leave after the last group got through the first hole, because that was the first time you could cross the fairway and jump into the car.
So we watched them down, yeah. So they teed off at 1:35.
Okay. Talk us through your day, Bruce.
So they teed off at 1:35. We'd watched the morning session, had a bit of lunch and sort of swanned around a bit, didn't we? Said hello to a few people. And then watched the groups tee off in the afternoon. Last game, which was Lottie Woad and Sarah Byrne, teed off at 1:35. I then just skipped in the car and
With a lady captain.
with the lady captain and the in-laws. You know, you have to obviously try and keep the in-laws happy as well. So
You're doing
Played
the
with
honourable
them.
thing,
That-
Bruce.
yeah,
Sounds like it's keeping
yeah,
Bruce
yeah.
happy, this,
Yeah.
if I'm being brutally honest, because Grace's
so anyway,
dad
no,
seemed like
listen,
he was
we
really
digress,
enjoying the
we
golf.
digress,
Let's
we
not
digress.
get too bogged down.
So
in all
we
this.
went and had a quick leisurely game at the Berkshire and got back in time to watch
And a cup of tea. Don't
to
forget
watch.
the cup of tea.
Yeah, we had to pack them on their way to. You know, they had a long drive after.
Yeah, but
as
it's
well,
just to give
So we had
everyone
a
the
quick
full
cup of
thing.
tea,
You had a leisurely game of the Berkshire and a cup of tea.
Yeah.
and
okay.
came back and picked them up on that group that we'd watched tee off at 1:30. Picked them up on the 16th hole.
It's mad. I thought today's pace of play was not as bad.
No, it was refreshing,
fine.
actually.
And the 4-ball, it's like golf can only take so long. When it gets past 5 hours, like eventually the 18th hole is coming to you at that point. Like you are just going to complete it. But in foursomes, I was like, this is chronic. If I'm being everything flawless, the one thing that was just unacceptable was pace of play, really. And a lot of that was down to the foursomes where it was more stark. I think I had them on the clock, Lottie Woad and Sarah Byrne, at 47 minutes coming off the third
And
green.
they were Group 1.
And they were Group 1, so they're playing into an empty course. You said they got a warning on the second green on Saturday morning.
I was walking down to meet you guys because I'd watched a bit of the back groups. Now it came up to meet. I think I meet you, and I was on this sort of service road that shoots down the side of 2, and there was a woman there in a buggy, all radioed up and had earphones and stuff, and she was saying through her radio, she was like kind of saying, look, tell them it's not an official warning, but they're now on the clock and they need to, and this was to the second green.
It's like 2 holes played. There's just been a pair of 4s made on both holes, and we're in pace of play territory. It was slow, and I think some of that is because I don't know whether they don't play a huge amount of foursomes golf, or if it's some of the team aspect of like getting really involved in putting. But they seem to lose a lot of time on the greens with putts. There seems to be like very limited concession of putts, and when they're inside very makeable distances, they seem to take as long, if not longer, sometimes.
We draw it back to the Walker Cup last year when we were talking earlier about how discerning the audience is that comes to the Walker Cup and the Curtis Cup. I remember us all laughing that the only complaints really at St Andrews last year were that in the foursomes, playing partners weren't walking ahead.
Yeah.
And we thought, wow, this is the sort of audience you want to keep company with. And actually it was the same here at the Curtis Cup in that, well, actually on the American side, we were watching that Melanie Green and Rachel Keane against Sarah Byrne and Lottie Woad Saturday morning. And the Americans walked forward.
Yeah.
But the
and
Brits didn't do that. And I don't know whether that was
fairly
deliberate.
universal.
Yeah.
I thought the Americans were walking forward, but there was this weird thing going on that the Americans would walk forward, but if certainly in that Rachel Keane group, she was really good at walking forward. She was always like miles ahead. But
You're Rachel.
because
Alex Fitzpatrick's girlfriend.
I thought she was brilliant. I thought she was really good this whole week, and she'd walk forward. But if her partner had driven further, she still can't hit. So she's walked forward, but can't play.
Just had to
I think
wait.
some of it
Yeah.
probably comes from a position of just wanting to get going, Like I think sometimes you can slow the game down to your own advantage, and they're probably just not wanting to do that. Like it was.
Yeah. I don't
Maybe
know.
that's a bit harsh on them, but I just.
But you had
and
a great
it rolls off
take.
the back of the AIG, which was frankly slow for the bits that I saw and what I've read about it. I wasn't watching all of it because I was at West Lancs. I thought the golf at West Lancs, that the girls in that were, I hate to say it was a brilliant event, and the first time the girls had won the Junior Vagliano last week since the event's been running, and they were really chuffed, and it was a great performance. But the pace of play was unacceptably slow, and eventually you reach a point where it sounds like three chauvinists just
It's not just a
lambasting
lady
women for
golf
slow
thing,
play, but it is a genuine blight on the game, and it seems to be the younger the stuff you're watching, and we've been quite well exposed to it the last few weeks. It just feels like enough's enough. Someone's got to just be like, look, this isn't the future of what we should be playing. Like, it's got to be quicker.
Yeah,
well,
but I think
you Becky, you said a really good point in the week, pointing at Sam there. Is that I don't think
Sounds
this is
like
just,
something I'd do.
I
don't
make very
think this
good
is
points.
just a problem with women's golf. It's a problem with all golf that, specifically professional golf is really slow. But the women have got an ability here to develop, to make a better product.
Yeah.
If they just made a decision to be really quick and we're just going to play really fast. That's what we do. We're going to set our stall out to be really quick. It would just be a better product to watch, and you'd watch way more of the women's game, because I've been quite open for a couple of years now. I don't like watching professional golf, men's golf. It's just, I like watching the majors. I enjoy it. But beyond that, the PGA Tour has lost me. Live is rubbish. And, if there was a product where you could watch and it's like fast golf and they're hitting balls and they're moving forward and everything's moving, it's quick, it's good.
The top 100 women in
They
the
could do
world, collectively want to see the success of that tour and everything get, improve and continue to grow. And there is definitely an ability to use pace to as an advantage if they could collectively say, enough's enough. We don't want to be playing 5.5-hour rounds because we think that's going to be the detriment to our product. Tomorrow, half the girls playing in the Curtis Cup will turn pro, and it feels like it's just another generation that are going to come in, normalised to playing slow. And I just think there's an opportunity there for them to get together and be like, enough's enough.
Which is where Asterix, by the way, Asterix Talley was a breath of fresh air.
Oh, she was. It was so good seeing her literally just in the ground, one practice swing, far away, and it's she's not rushing, but she's playing with she wouldn't she could go out and play at Rye and it would be perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, and I think
Jasmine
in the
Koo
interest
was
of
also really, really quick.
Yeah,
I think in the interest of giving it the full picture, look, this is a high stakes environment and they're representing their countries and they want to do well, and there's crowds and there's a lot of people moving around, so, and they all they are very young. But I think really that just goes back to, I think, the point you touched on there, Sam, which is a lot of this is seeing what you see on the TV as a young aspiring golfer has an impact on you. And if you see them doing aim point, taking a long time, being very deliberate, it's only natural that if you then rise through the ranks and you just you're quite proficient yourself, that's a lot of learned behaviour. So I think it starts in the professional game, and we shouldn't obviously, I'm not saying we're doing this, but shouldn't tarnish them all with the same brush, because having watched a lot of the women's golf last week at St Andrews, I can tell you for free that Nelly Corder, Charlie Hull, they play quickly.
Charlie Hull hates slow play.
Yeah, in both their cases, particularly Nelly's, you can actually see that it's quite dissatisfying, and it affects them. It knocks them off their rhythm when they're paired with someone really, really slow.
Yeah, like Brooke Henderson's very slow, whatever. And the thing is, and once you're in that environment, particularly in stroke play golf, no laying up. I've talked about it a lot, and they always make a fair point, which is like there's no advantage to playing quick golf in professional events because it's ultimately the group in front are just going to be just slow.
It's going to run in the back
but
of someone.
That doesn't make it acceptable. It's like stealing grapes in a supermarket. It's okay because everyone does it, and it's like, well, that's not. You know what I mean? It's not. It's not like it's not an excuse.
Yeah.
So
I also think that younger and younger players are getting access to, psychology. One of the guys we bumped into on the fairways, Nigel Edwards, who's played in 4 Walker Cups, captained 2 Walker Cups, and now is involved in England golf as kind of and he kindly said that he would come on the pod, and I really hope I can follow up and make that happen, because he's a really interesting guy. But he's now into sort of developmental pathways in England golf, and they are getting access to golf psychology. And if psychology is saying, go through this process, do this. I noticed that Hannah Darling, she was one of the players that, everything happens with the glove unvelcroed, and then as she steps in, it's Velcro in. And it's so trained, you can see it's like,
there's a process,
this is
a trigger.
go zone.
Yeah,
I'm putting I'm now doing up my glove, it's hit time, and all that stuff. It's not clutter, but it's in the head, like
there's more process than
process.
there needs to be.
And Asterix Talley, and I'm sorry to go back, but honestly, it was so refreshing. When that hole you were talking about today on the 11th, when Lottie was making that chip, so Asterix had already approached, he's on the green, Asterix was up there, lining up a putt. She had so Lottie's still playing.
Finishing a sausage sandwich.
And she's finished a sausage sandwich. And then she's just lining up a putt. She's getting everything sorted for her. Like, she wasn't paying any attention to what Lottie was doing. So that when it was her turn to hit, she was going to hit. And that doesn't happen that often. People wait till it's their turn to do something and then start doing something.
Yeah, and I don't think it's not, it's a bit of a false dichotomy. It's like, do you go for the performance stuff, go through your routine, your process, get yourself in your happy place mentally? But if you do that, you're going to be a slow player. I think some of it's just an awareness point, as you're alluding to there, Mills, in that if you are able to do all of that stuff while it's someone else's turn to hit their shot, and you can kind of get the jump on it a bit, then great, more power to you. Try and combine both, because it's not a question of, just rush round and don't worry about how you play. There is just a balance to be struck.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I think we're all in agreement, aren't we?
I don't want it to become a pace of play.
No, we don't want to be Debbie Downers because this is class.
I really want to talk through today's action, because there's a lot of highlights from today, personally as well as within the golf. But can we just talk about how good Sunningdale looked for a few minutes? I kind of regret the fact that I haven't really been able to sit at home and watch it on Sky, because I vividly remember us doing the podcast about Shell's Wonderful World of Golf, and you did the Faldo Norman match, didn't you? Which was like 99 or something like that.
It might have been a bit earlier.
And
It might
like
have been 92
circular
or
bunkers,
94,
and it all looks very green, all looks very nice.
a lot more trees.
I bet that course looked absolutely unreal on the broadcast, because it looked so sharp out there, like so good.
It looked mega.
This
morning,
you got to admit, it was so good. The condition.
former podcast guest David Normoyle, incredible golf IQ historian. He's been up for a few days following the Curtis Cup. Sam and I sat down for genuinely like the first hour we've had that weren't going to be like occupied by some type of work.
We were going to meet for breakfast,
We
weren't
were
we?
at breakfast, yeah, and we sat down
Got a
waiting for
coffee.
you to arrive, because we'd only been like 10 minutes
It
early.
was lovely. By the tree, coffee in the shade,
And we thought,
an hour
this
and a
is
half
great.
of just decompressing.
And then David Normal walks past and says, "Coming for a course walk on the new, boys?"
Okay. So we trudge
Can't
off
say
and
no at that point.
2.5 hour course walk around the new.
So
with
it's because
his
the
friend
news,
Michael as
just to state the obvious, the news not in play this weekend, so it's an empty course, so we could just walk around it, and just David hadn't played it since like 2008, so he was just trying to remember it, and he wanted to see it, and
But then we got in over our head, because we were having a great time, and then we get to the fifth tee, and then it's like Gil Hans is there. Before you know it, me and Tom are like just in awe. We're just totally in over our heads at this point, and completely out of our depth. But that was a lot of fun, actually, going out and looking
very,
at
very
the
good.
new
And Sunningdale new was looking spectacular, and it's nice to get up close to a lot of it. But the old, walking it was just, it looked fabulous this week. So hats off to Sunningdale. And I thought the club put on a really good event. It's all really well run. I know they have to work quite hard with the RNA to make sure it all.
diamond
I
cutting.
think it's great to have it here, not just because of the quality of the golf course and the history and just the general pedigree around it, but also being so close to London in an area where there's a lot of like-minded clubs. I'm thinking of like Walton Heath, the Berkshire, countless others in and around Surrey and Berkshire area, around London, that have done a huge amount actually to boost participation, particularly among younger women in the game, and you can see the fruits of that this week with just how many people come and watch the event and really take a keen interest in walking around. I think it's
and
been
you had,
brilliant having it somewhere that
Sunningdale
can get that
Heath.
football.
Yesterday, Friday, they were offering free golf for women because of the Curtis Cup, which is just over. For those who don't know, Sunningdale Heath is just just off, literally the other side of the first hole in the old, offering free golf for women on Friday, which is a really good initiative. And it was.
It's a great
It's
part of the
always
world.
pretty
They've obviously just put the news out that Royal Dornoch will be hosting the 2028. If there's a minor concern, it's like that's a hell of an investment to get up there and watch it.
Yeah, it's a
But
bit far
it will
away. It's a
be
bit far away
amazing.
from Cookie Jar. They could have thought about that, couldn't they?
exactly. But the other end of it is you don't get to see Dornoch on TV very often, do you? And that will be special in its own.
It'd be worth changing it to May.
Yeah, with a gorse out.
With a
and
gorse
everything,
hat in
make it-
Dornoch.
Yeah.
So yeah. Shall we?
Go on to the main news of this. Oh no, do you want to do some matches before we go on to the mains? section of this pod.
Well,
What's
yeah,
the
I
main
think just
section?
linger.
Overheard at the Curtis
Yeah.
Cup. My favourite section.
Just to linger a little bit on the format, and I think why it is, because I was thinking about like, why is it such a brilliant event to watch? And I think you can kind of talk about the Walker Cup and the Curtis Cup broadly as being great for the same reasons. You know, it's the best amateurs in the world who are, in a lot of cases, going to go on to have fantastically successful professional careers too. You're seeing them just at that, you know, the sort of apex of their amateur career. They're played at such brilliant historic courses. You know, there's a really great audience that attends, and it's not too kind of overpowering in terms of trying to get around and watch great golf. But also the format, match play, and the crescendo that you get to on a Sunday afternoon means that you can go out and watch a few groups and see a bit of the golf play out. But over the course of like a 20 to 30 minute period, everything just reaches this crescendo really, really quite quickly. And all of a sudden, it was the Mimi Rhodes game today, you know, where everyone just sort of descends on the 14, 15, 16 holes, and everyone realises what a critical match it is. And it's just amazing to then sort of be in the, you know, in the thick of it there and just seeing a match like that play out. I think that's one of the key reasons why it's such a brilliant format.
Because, like, for the first sort of few hours of this morning's play, or 2 hours maybe, the crowds this week, they've all been 3 matches. So there's 3 matches of foursomes, then 3 matches of 4-ball, day 1. 3 matches of foursomes and 3 matches of 4-ball, day 2. Then you got 12 matches, or, you know, so you got like 4 times more matches on the course than you've had before. So the crowds...
It was 8, isn't there?
8 matches, sorry, idiot. So you've got loads more matches out on the course than you've had before. And then the crowds all seem a bit sort of diluted, and you can get really close to the action. It's great. You can watch all these different groups. But like you say, all of a sudden, the crowds just start getting bigger and bigger because everyone's coming to these groups, and people are starting to finish. And
well, you drop off, don't you? You drop off the asterisk game because it's like, well, that looks like that's probably going to Lottie Woad, so that's not going to be the pivotal match. And you're looking ahead, and you're thinking, you know, waking up this morning at 7-5, like they couldn't have really hoped for a better result after 2 days, I think it's fair to say. So they need 3.5 points to secure the victory and 3 for a tie. I think we should find that out there somewhere. It's actually, when you look at it,
it was looking grim
matches,
at one point.
It's actually not that. It's actually still quite a bit, you know.
Yeah.
To
It's
find,
one quite hard to the
and
Americans.
there's red
There's
everywhere on
It was
the board.
looking grim for a while.
You know, and Sarah Byrne played great all week, won all of her matches. Like she was
didn't.
She was
She
Just
didn't
unbelievable.
drop a
lose any
point.
points.
She didn't
Just
drop a
3.5.
She didn't drop a point.
She played all sessions, 3.5 points she had.
Okay, right.
But she didn't
Stand
lose.
corrected.
But she didn't lose a match.
But she was great. You know, dropped a great putt on 12.
And then eagled 14.
Yeah, an eagle 14. And then there was a bit more red coming through. But then, like you said, Patience Rose was, you know, obviously just turned it on, played great stuff. That match was wrapped up on the 13th green, and then right behind was her sister Mimi Rhodes. And it was like, this is clearly key. Because the penultimate
She was
match
down. She was
blue.
2 down with like
She was
7 or
3
8
down through 7.
7 or 8
3
to
down
go.
through 7. And then she birdied, I think it was 10, 11, 13, 14
To go one up.
to go 1 up. And you're like, whoa, that was absolutely crucial.
And
It
that's
was
where Melanie
complete-
Green, you could see it. Like she just started taking on a bit of oil or water,
Yeah.
as you would say, you're taking on water.
taking on
Sam.
water.
And
was like me on a
it was a
Saturday
bit
night.
You'd be
rattled,
leaking
just
oil? I think you'd be
struggled.
leaking
oil
oil.
or taking on water.
Yeah.
She was doing both. Pulled it in
leaking
the
water.
bunker.
She was leaking water. It was very warm.
Hit it in the bunker on 15, the par 3, and then hit it long of the green on 16, and then she just like wrestled these amazing par saves there. So you thought, okay, Mimi Rhodes going to go from 1 up to being a couple up, and she didn't do it. And then all of a sudden it flipped back the other way. 17, Mimi Rhodes hit it left.
It looked for the world she was losing
She
17.
was mega
Pitched
dead.
it
on
out.
And you're
Saturday.
thinking,
Yeah.
shit, this is all square going down 18. They could just turn this on and it's gone.
And she poured in an amazing par save of her own from 20.
There was a
15
bit
feet.
of confusion coming up 18 because then they then hit their drives, you know, 1 up going up 18. So it's quite exciting. You think, okay, great, we've got half a point from this, but we need the full point. They both smoke drives down there, like well up the hill. Great drives. Watch them hit the others. And just before she's played, news has come in that the penultimate game has gone GB and I's way.
That's Lorna McClymont, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She just won 3 and 2.
So it's like, oh, great. Well, that's it. That's the Curtis Cup in the bag.
Which I think they knew when Mimi putted out. I think they
No,
did
they
know.
didn't.
Did they not?
So we were walking up the fairway because I was with them, with and the news came through as they were walking up the fairway on 18, and some Irish guy turned to, I don't know whether he was part of the team or whatever, but turned to Mimi and said, "Mimi, that putt just won you the Curtis Cup." And I was like, it's a bit of a fucking bold statement, isn't it? Because like she's still got to play this out. Because I didn't know either that match had dropped 3-2 on for Lorna, and I was like, that's a lot of pressure. I mean, you're just assuming that, and then it was confirmed. So she's just been told you've won the Curtis Cup, and then she's got approached to play on 18.
Yeah,
which was like, I mean, the adrenaline going through at that point must have been.
And
Well, I
she
was
just hit
taking
a slight
pictures. You
double
were
cross,
watching,
didn't
yeah.
she? Really, I mean, there was a big gallery there.
But it
and
hit the ground, bounced OB.
hit a slight double cross.
So
with a
then
bit
you
of
walked
adrenaline.
up to the second shot. Then they come back and play another one up, which she sort of comes out of it a bit, not surprisingly.
Hit a great shot to 15 feet, though. I mean, it was maybe a bit more aggressive.
Oh yeah, okay,
she
yeah.
did. She just passed the
Maybe
pin.
that was a bit harsh. Yeah, she put it in there. Then missed the putt. But then it was all going on. It was like it was all done. And then you say Catriona Matthews just like popped over and was like,
Melanie Green had like
we're done.
4 putts for it, and
Yeah.
and she still wasn't being asked. And everyone, like, at this point, there was like every single person on the property at Sunningdale was around that green. So there's thousands of people there, and this girl's got 4 putts from like
like 8
feet to
Half the
finish
match.
a match, and Catriona Matthews just walked in the green and went, enough's enough, I think. Let's just
Yeah.
let's just go.
Yeah.
And that was that. But then, yeah, I mean, I'm slowly coming around to it. Like, I had such a fabulous few days, and you know, the more I think about it, the more I just want to do Curtis Cup, Walker Cup, amateurs. It's just, you know, the women's and men's am. It's just they're so good to be around, and the quality of golf is so good. I mean, they were
You'd have a
throwing
great golfing
birdies at it for
calendar if you
fun.
only went to amateur match play events. If you only went to amateur match play events, you'd have a great calendar
Yeah.
event, because across the whole board of what's going on, there's plenty in a year to go and see. And it wasn't just, you know, it isn't just like R&A folk here and da 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 da. There's loads of
Loads of
families.
kids, yeah.
It's free to get in under 15s. There's just loads of like. It's just a really nice crowd of people.
Loads of ice cream trucks.
Loads of like, you know,
Loads of ice cream trucks.
Yeah,
like,
actually,
a lot of sugar on property.
Food and drink is
this
brilliant.
week.
Yeah.
But right. Anyway,
I do want to cover Overheard at the Curtis Cup, because there's been some amusing sort of points. I mean, as I said, there's a really interesting bunch of people. I threw some pictures up of just some of the faces in the crowd, and I mean, it's some seriously educated people in the game of golf wandering the fairways.
and us.
And we're in Sunningdale, which is, let's be honest, it's not poverty around here, is it? It's a very posh area, and you've got a lot of people who play the golf in Surrey, and they're all coming out, and everyone's very well dressed, and it all feels a little bit like a regatta. We were over on the 7th tee.
Is this where it started?
This is where the idea.
6th green.
And there's a massive house. I mean, this thing must be
you've
worth
taken this-
tens of millions.
You've
of quid,
taken this
house.
and run with it. And
Well,
it might be slightly embellished, but I can assure you that the core facts are true.
there's a bit
So,
of VAT.
We're on the 6th green, and then the 7th tee is behind it, and there's this gigantic house. And Lottie Wode is putting out. I can't remember who she was playing with or against. It's
With
just
Sarah
too
Byrne,
humorous
yeah.
at this point. And then I'm assuming, mother says, I don't know the name, so we're just going to add Orlando. It's like, Orlando, get out of the pool. And then all I hear is, why? It's like, oh, because I'm telling you, get out of the pool. Why? because your caviar's getting warm.
I
there was
can't
just-
actually believe that is true.
The first,
I
like
think
the first
the first-
90% of it is true. There was a reason why he had to get out of the pool, but basically this kid was just screaming "Why!" every time that his mother said
Smashing
something.
around.
He was eating his papaya or
Um,
something was another possible reason.
Yeah, it's
But
because
so then I was
That
like,
was the genesis for the idea of
Well, the
Overheard
idea
of the
then of,
Curtis
like,
Cup.
yeah, over here, and I just heard a lot of things. You saw lots of people chatting. There was quite a bit of bravado. And I just got a few little quotes. Nothing massive here. I mean, I don't know if did you boys pick up any nuggets on your way
there are
around?
a couple of bits. I mean, I don't think we're as good as you.
I mean, I don't know whether
as-
to
or as
leave.
your
There's some
ones.
lifestyle ones and there's some golf observation ones. I'll go in pretty early on some of these. I think it was around the turn, I heard somebody just say, "This is nothing like the Halford Hewitt," which I thought was
Remarkable
It
comment.
was an extraordinary comment, really. But, it served, I suppose, to remind anyone who's in earshot that he went to a public school and he plays in the Halford Hewitt. So that was pretty good. And then I heard somebody getting on I think, was it like, I can't remember which tee box it was now, because I haven't played here, but they said, "Oh, this is like a much longer version of Pine Valley's 11th."
It was the 7th. It was. I told you. It was. We were walking up over the brow of the 7th, and there were some American guys behind me, and he was like, "This is just like a longer version of Pine Valley 11, isn't it?" And I was like, "Hi, my name's Tom Mills. Nice to meet you." You mentioned Pine Valley. Yeah, I've not been there.
But quite a lot
was,
of pine tree logos.
There was a lot of ski chat.
There was just a bit of ski chat. People around here plan their holidays quite far in advance, don't they?
There was a lot of ski
thinking
chat going on.
Well,
someone said, I've only got the 2 trips to, what was it, Verbier and Zermatt booked this year.
I've only got Zermatt and Verbier. There was another ski one which I really liked. Someone said, the thing with Leger is it's just a bit too low.
It's probably how we sound when we talk about course architecture. It's that sort of element.
The thing
of
is,
it.
if you just pick the worst things, the most insipid comments, and then invariably you sort of pick them up.
I had someone a friend of the pod actually, overheard him when we popped for a drink actually in the sort of Curtis Cup corner between the 2nd and the 13th. Said, of course, Nemesis was the goddess. Nemesis was the daughter of Zeus. That was another one. Of course, you should know that. It's just basic classical knowledge.
I also saw someone sort of walked in. They were sort of just meeting him for the first time, whether it's sort of like friend of a friend or something. So which clubs are you a member of? It's
plural.
Like quite forward.
Couldn't just be one.
A lot of logo bingo this week, and have you noticed?
Like
Probably
it's like the
Walker Cup, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Sheer logo bingo. I mean,
Yeah.
a good friend of the pod, Hugo Cornell's walking with us, and he just said to me coming up 17 yesterday, he goes, "I don't know who's left at Pine Valley this week."
There's a lot of PV logos on
Have I got any other nuggets in here? There's a couple, I think. This was quite good. I think they were talking about trips and just trying to get out of something. It says, you can always just make a placeholder excuse. Just say, my parents are taking me to Japan. that was good fun.
Standard.
And then a favourite that people like to talk about is Pimm's. Had some nice Pimm's this afternoon. Obviously, there's vodka Pimm's, which is pretty much like you can't get hold of it anymore. And somebody set this thing up called Sun Cup, which is like a sort of an equivalent to vodka Pimm's.
A Sunningdale member.
Is that right? Is that?
Yep. A Sunningdale member set it up as a sort of an alternative now that vodka Pimm's is no longer made. But yeah, Sun Cups are.
And then someone said, the thing is, it's just a little bit sweet, so you just add the ginger beer and it takes the sweetness away from it, which I thought was a brilliant little nugget to go on. So yeah, it gives you a bit of a flavour, but it's not all elite golf knobbery. It genuinely
Can we
is
have a
great
moment
showcase
for
of
the
golf.
disaster of social media this week?
Your disaster?
Yeah.
Well, I think the pictures have gone down extraordinarily well, but I think
well
the
done
reels
you.
have tanked. Ever since you took some flagrant copyright violation with music selection, started putting...
You
I
obviously,
was sat in the office on Friday
obviously
and I
didn't
saw
tag it
a
properly.
really nice picture come up that had about 12 likes, and then Tom from the Jar had just commented saying, "Screwed by the algo."
Crushed by the
That would have
algo.
been a video, because the pictures
was
have
it.
performed
the
actually.
videos. So
Sorry,
we've
the video, reels.
we've put out reels and on social media at the end of every single session. And I think the sum total of views is about 35. It's
Yeah.
been absolutely
So that's a small
atrocious.
plea that goes out to the listeners. Anyone wants to go back and retroactively
Just
like one of
just
those,
like,
then
comment,
Tom,
and share.
Tom
Smash
will
that
be-
like button.
Tom will be very happy.
It's, I mean, the Argo's not going to pick it up now, but it's quite demoralising when you try.
Great
We all
fun, though.
try.
Really, really good fun, guys. Like, I don't know if there's
I've had a class
anything
week.
more to add to this, but that's the first time they've done that since 2016. That's you couldn't. I think that's the closest scoreline really in recent memory.
Oh, we should probably touch on meeting Richard walking down the fairway of the 5th. And he started going, well, of course, the biggest Curtis Cup thing is 1954. That's the first time in Curtis Cup history that we haven't lost.
Richard Fisher, I would advertise anybody to go and listen to the Harlick episode.
So clever.
Mainly, well, firstly, Harlick's interesting anyway in and of itself, but Richard Fisher, as a historian is like unbelievable. I mean, his knowledge is incredible. And
The
he
stuff he
started
was coming
saying,
out with.
he rattled off about 30 facts about the Curtis Cup in the 1950s and said that there's someone else if you really want to speak to a specialist on Curtis Cup 1950s, but we'll leave you with that. Anything else before we tie a bow on this?
Well, I think the mission now is to secure Cyprus Point 25 Walker Cup. We need to try and get there. I think it's going to be a toughie, but it's going to be 100% worth it if we can do
I don't
it.
know whether the tickets are going to be harder to come by, that or Oasis. Oasis kind of took that was actually...
That was another lovely little subplot on Saturday morning, wasn't it, when we were
and
out
it was
there
so
watching
annoying because
it.
I really wanted them, and it's just desperate, isn't it? It's just, I don't know.
Somebody got tickets.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah.
Opening night.
You
the
had someone
Principality.
remotely. I don't think... I mean, you're going to tell me why my grasp of, booking tickets is terrible technical knowledge or whatever, but I didn't seem like this sort of cellular connection, the 4G round about the 12th hole at Sunningdale was good enough to get you through to the booking page at Oasis.
No,
So
lots of
luckily,
people struggled.
You had someone else though away from site.
Yeah, I had a satellite agent working for me.
Managed to secure you some tickets. So yeah,
So
you'll look
restricted view on the opening night. So
You'd take that though, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, I think restricted view just means we're bottom tier seats. That's
When
all we
did
could get.
Oasis break up?
It's been 15 years, so
Because I
2009.
was just Googling that.
asterisk tally.
Exactly. I was just Googling when did Oasis break up. So as well as not having lived through a global recession, she has never lived in a world where Oasis have been a band.
I think you could probably say that about most of the team.
No,
actually.
15 years.
15 years ago.
They finished in
2009.
I thought it
They
was.
split up
I thought it
2009.
was longer ago than that.
Yeah.
No?
The group abruptly disbanded in 2009 after the sudden departure of Noel Gallagher. So,
well, there you go.
I mean, it all comes back to 2008, 2009. I mean, look, maybe she was born earlier in the year, but I think you get the gist. It's pretty mental, isn't
It's
it?
pretty amazing, yeah.
Um,
Right, boys. I've had a fabulous week. Thank you all for coming, joining me.
Been great to share with you both again.
and big thanks, it's great seeing loads of people out on the fairways.
Yeah.
The people that we bump into on the fairways does not tally up with the listener numbers of this podcast, because that would mean they were all at the Curtis Cup this weekend and then some.
Yeah.
But it was really
I think
nice
people
to
just
see loads of
polite and
people
say
who
they
enjoy it and
like
say
it, but-
and say thanks
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
and whatnot. So
So never be shy to come say hello.
no,
Because I never know
I'm-
sometimes whether people think they recognise me or they just want to fight me.
I think they thought Jason Day was out there alongside
Okay, that
Justin
might be it.
Rose and
Yeah.
Charlie
They
Hull.
just thought you weren't in more outrageous Malbon gear, really. But the thick burgundy slacks on
That
this
was a mistake,
boiling.
though.
Sunday Burgundy was a big,
That was a
it was a
mistake
bold
today,
play,
I must
wasn't
say.
it?
But it's good for getting through the heather, in the sort of, if you're sort of trying to go cross
Yeah, it
country.
just looked like a torso floating in the heather from a
Yeah.
distance.
I don't own legs. Anyway,
Until next time.
Adios.
Watch this.